Now if you remember 6 or 7 weeks ago now, we were here, we were replacing weed grasses in the lawn by removing from one area just over here to my left and then replacing them into squares and putting it into the lawn to my right. Well, just over the last few weeks I've just noticed as we've been mowing it, it's just dropped ever so slightly. Now even though we compacted it before with our heels, we tamped it down, we healed it again, we raked it, we screeded it, you can't create years of compression of time, pressure and water penetration overnight. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the proper way to fix a little dip in your lawn, and it doesn't involve throwing a bag of topsoil on it. But first of all, we've got to get the lawn cut, so let's do that and then we can show you how we're going to fix this little dip. Okay, so we've got our little patch, as you can see there, you can just make it out still. Because it's been a bit of trouble getting it going, because it was in a drought, it took forever and ever to get going and it actually needed a little bit more attention. So it's come through, but it's not had the same amount of treatments as everything else. So this lawn looks like that. And then you can just see this is a bit lime green just because it's not had a galactic application and it's not had slow grow either. So that'll be why it's just a bit behind, but it doesn't stand out too much. It's on camera it doesn't look too bad, but in real life it is actually quite a lot greener, like a lime green. So just as I'm mowing it, I just step down just there where I start and I just dip a little bit. So what I want to do today is I want to raise it up ever so slightly, but we can't just go on with wet topsoil and do that. It has to be kiln dried 70-30 top dressing as I've got there. If it's not kiln dried, it won't fall through the gaps. If it's wet, it'll just sit on top and smother it, and that's not what we want to do. We don't want to just throw a bag of topsoil on it, heel it in, and then expect the lawn to come back through, because it won't. It'll just smother it and it'll just die. So we're going to do it right, and this is the way to do it, the proper way. A bit more expensive, you know, that's like 4 or 5 quid a bag now, whereas a bag of topsoil is maybe like 2 or 3 pounds, but in the long run it's better off. I've got a few with me, but I think we'll be all right with one. So I'm going to show you what tools we can use. We don't need anything other than either a brush or a rake or a trusty little level. It doesn't have to be a spirit level. We're not using the bubble of the spirit level, we're just using it because it's a metal straight edge, so a piece of wood could do anything like that. So now I've got it cut, what I did was just notice there's a few little patches just where the seed's not quite come through. Just because we're covering it over, we might as well just drop a little seed in there. You can see I've just sprinkled 4 or 5 seeds in there. Doesn't need a handful. Do not throw a handful in there, you're just asking for trouble. That area is like 1 square metre, so that would need like 35 to 50 grams of seed to do the whole thing. If you get a handful of seed, you're throwing like 100 grams in one spot, so that's not what we do. We don't need that because we're just going to end up with a big patch of seed. It'll die off, disease, and it'll just look unsightly. So just a few seeds dropped in, and time now to crack on, and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so we're just ready to start, and I just wanted to touch on the top dressing again and why we use this. Now it's 70-30 kiln dried. It's got to be kiln dried, because if it's dry it'll fall through the gaps. I've got a little test I'm going to show you how it works. Now most suppliers are either Bathgate or Mansfield Sand 70-30. That's the generic top dressing, that's bagged and mixed. Now as you can see, it's kiln dried, so it's absolutely bone dry, so it's like egg timer sand. You imagine an egg timer, a very small hole. If it was wet sand, it would swell and it would clog the hole up, and that's exactly what we need here. We need it to fall through the gaps in the surface. So for example, I've got some topsoil here, some grade 1 topsoil. Now what you're trying to do is the snowball test. Now if you can squeeze it together like that and it stays like that, it's no good for spreading, for fine tuning a little undulation, because all that's going to do is just, imagine that's one of the particles, it's just going to sit on top and smother it, and the grass isn't going to be able to grow through. Whereas if we try and make a snowball with the kiln dried, it just falls back in the bag, no problem. So that's why we don't use topsoil for this kind of work. So what I can do is, I'm going to start at this top end, and I'm just going to pour out a line. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So don't pull the whole bag out, because you might not need it. I don't know how much we're going to need. So there's a few things you can do. You can just get a brush, or you can literally just push. Now what you're looking to do is we're just looking to work that in, and you want to leave the blades of the grass standing proud. so you can see them, and that means that they're going to be able to push through, whereas if you can't, and it's not going to come through. Because when this gets wet, it's just going to act like your regular topsoil, and it's not going to be able to grow through. So we put it in, and what we can do is after, we can just get our brush and we can just brush it through as well. So this is one way of doing it. Just raise it up, and then what you can do is just raise it to the edge of there and just feel. Don't overthink it. Don't be getting laser levels out or anything. Or, you know, I'm just showing you, I don't actually need a lawn lute or anything like that to do it. That's just overkill. If you've got one, you want to use it, fair enough, that's what they're invented for, jobs like this. But if you haven't got one, it's absolutely fine. So I'll do that with the spirit level. And I'll do this bit with the brush. And you can actually work it in better with the brush. I do prefer using a brush, to be honest. And then you could go over it after with your spirit level, just to make sure it's nice and flush against the edge of the lawn that you're using as your level point, or your datum point, if you like. So I'll brush that in, and you can see the grass is coming through, so we know we're not smothering it. Yeah, it looks a bit of a mess at first, but this is what happens when you top dress. You just have a bit of an unsightly mess, but as soon as it gets wet, you won't see it, and the grass will grow through it. But it has to be done, because what we don't want to do is have that dip all year. So I'll just finish off with that. You could use a rake, I guess, but it's just going to fall through. It's not as effective. Now what you've also got to make sure is that the ground is absolutely bone dry, because as soon as you put this sand on with it being so dry, it's just going to start capillary action straight away, and it's just going to soak it up and make it unspreadable, and then you run the risk of smothering the grass. So we'll just go like that. This sand is from Peter's, actually. I picked it up earlier. It's been in his coal, like the old coal shed, for many years. For what, since, not many years, many months maybe. Last March when we did the top dressing there, it's still there. We got too many. So I'll just knock it off my bill, what we've used here. So there you go. That is how you level a lawn with kiln dried top dressing. So then what we'll do is just give it one final brush, just to make sure we get it all worked in. And then when we're ready to feed next, we can just spray everything, and in a couple of weeks you won't even know that this patch was ever here. But yeah, looks a bit of a mess at first, but it's just one of those things that has to be done when you've reseeded a patch and it's sunk a little bit. But up close, very nice. Got it 25mm. Very pleased. I do prefer the bigger stripes, and we'll get back to those. But like I said, just because it's Wimbledon, we'll go to singles. Alright, so that's it for today. A short one, I know, but hopefully you've learned something on how to top dress your little undulations with 70/30 kiln dried top dressing. I'm a professional and I want you to be too, so I want you to do it right. So if you want to see other things being done on lawns like this, join me next time on Daniel Hibbert Lawn Expert, when we'll be doing something else lawn related. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and you've got videos here, here, here and here of past and present videos, so knock yourselves out. So we'll see you soon.